way that we tend to do CQB in Vegas is kind of, I don't know, you might perceive it as slow. It's methodical, and we try and do it very safely. The first thing to think about in CQB is it's all about angles and geometry. Potential angles, places where you can get shot from, places where you can't get shot from. So an example is when we're looking at the face of this building, this wall, we're not likely to get shot through that. That's a solid brick wall. Small arms don't just go straight through it. Big stuff like 50 cals can do sometimes, depending on the circumstances, but we don't generally worry too much about that stuff. That's out of scope for this. So in a situation like this, we have a variety of potential angles. Some of the most obvious ones are around the sides of the building. Somebody could come around that side and try and shoot you through there. And then you have stuff like windows. These are angles you can get shot from, including the ones that are partially shuttered. AI can and will shoot you through those tiny gaps, so you've got to be very careful. And then door, obviously. There can also be smaller holes in things, murder holes, lower down, like basement level windows, all sorts of complicated geometry. Moving through a CQB environment, you need to be conscious of all the different threat angles. You need to be constantly thinking and prioritizing which ones of these are the major threat and taking actions to minimize threat from anywhere you can. So a good example of something that we do to minimize threat from angles is that, so instead of standing directly in front of a window like this, you stand off to the side. Much harder to get shot, minimizing angles of exposure. That's kind of obvious, but that's an example of what we're talking about. Something else that I'm doing here is I'm minimizing my exposure to these upper windows by tucking in close to the wall. If I were to stand out here, someone can feasibly shoot me through one of those. If I stand down here, much harder. Okay, for this we'll assume that we have like a 3 and a 4 man providing security where necessary, just because there's only 2 of us for this. Peeking. Okay, I can see a bit of the building. Looks like a 2-story, but I can't see much of it. You're clear to cross to the cover front right.
Crossing
behind.
Two-story building, windows, top and bottom floor, entrance, east side.
Roger, got 2 windows on my side. 1 up, 1 down. Don't see any entrances here. I'll across to you. Go low. Okay, cool. You and I will cross to that exposed wall. We'll single stack left side of the door, and then 3 and 4 man will join us, and then we'll make entry.
Roger.
Ready? On me, crossing. Set. Alright, stack on the door.
Stacked. Do you want single or double?
Stand by. Okay, can you step out? I'll swing this, then you throw a flash in, and we'll go in fast.
Yep, set. Going right.
Clear.
Right, room on the left. I'm gonna flash and pipe.
Rich, do it.
Flash out. Looks clear. Going first, dead space right.
Okay.
I'm going right.
Right looks clear. Got stairs. Room clear. Looks to be clear behind the stairs.
Looks clear at top.
Right, on you.
I've got a flash ready. Gonna flash and go halfway. Right, landing's clear. Moving up, I'm gonna get on the right. I'm gonna reflash.
Rich, we got a closed door right. We're going to assume that the 3 and 4 man are holding this door. I'm just going to cross to you.
Got
So-
dead space.
Let's take the dead space first.
Roger, gonna flush. Stay on the right. Dead space
Okay.
clear. And cross my cube.
At this point, Hood would probably actually stay back there to provide cover, and then the 3-man and I would take this. He'll play the part of the 3-man, and we'll assume there's somebody covering long.
Alright, I think it's yours if you could swing it.
I'll go to half, and then swing after.
Alright, nothing seen left. Gonna flash, go right. Right clear.
Blade, we usually do walking. Which would you think is the best, so to speak, in general?
So we typically do it, jogging weapons raised, this kind of pace. The main reason for that is because it gets you out of, again, I've used this phrase before, a fatal funnel. This threshold, you can only fit one person in here, and if somebody engages you while you're in this threshold, then this causes you a massive problem, basically. This prevents your teammates from getting into the room. Potentially they could just gun down several people in quick succession. So you want to get out of this area as quickly as possible for a variety of reasons. The other reason for moving fairly quickly at that stage is we've put a flash in. That flash only lasts a couple of seconds. So we want to get in there and get rifles on target, basically, before that flash wears off. And if you go to walk, to get in, by that point, the flash could have worn off. So that's why we personally prefer to do it at a jog. Once you're out of the threshold, out of the fatal funnel, so to about basically, I know you can't see me. Once you hit this corner, pretty much, and you're out of the way, and you know your teammates can get into the room behind you, then you can go down to a walk. If we ran out of flashes, we'd probably take the room. We'd probably do it in a slightly different way, actually. So I'll demonstrate roughly how we do that without a flash hood if you want to double stack this. So let's assume that we can't flash this. We'll do, so actually just quick terminology thing. The thing that we did before where we open the door, throw a flash in, and then get in as quickly as possible and basically dominate the space. That there are different terminologies, but we generally call it a dynamic entry because it's fast. Whereas what we do here is a fighting from the threshold, slow combat clearance. So basically, we do as much fighting as we can before we enter the fatal funnel at all. So from here, I can basically clear a big chunk of the left side of the room. I can clear as far as that far corner there, and I can see most of this close corner here. There's kind of enough space there for a guy to stand that I wouldn't be able to see. Although armor AI, because they tend to move around and they flag with their weapon muzzle, so they stick it out past the door frame like this a lot, you can generally tell. So that side of the room is mostly clear. We'd be communicating this as we go. So I'm saying basically, there's short left side, looks clear, hard corner.
I can't see anything to the right.
Yeah, I'm conscious of the fact that Hood has the door on his right side, so he can't really see much there. We have to make a bit of an assessment about where the main threat is. So in this case, we'll probably decide that the main threat's on the right, at which point, say if I'm the number 1 man, I'll say, okay, I'm going to go in right, and we'll do the same thing pretty much, but we've just already cleared a big chunk of it. So same thing, but slower for this room, basically. So I'll go in right, and I'll stop jogging a little bit sooner. I know that here, so I wouldn't actually stop here, but I know that here I'm out of his way. He's able to get in behind me, so here I can drop down to walk. And at that point, I know that I'm clear behind me. Let's talk about some more little bits of terminology, theory, etc. This is a room. It's just a simple rectangular room, and there's one door into it. Some windows on the side, but we can ignore them for now. There's some things about the geometry of the room terminology that we use to talk about it, basically. So it's a rectangle, which means it's got 4 corners. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Confirmed.
There's a difference between 2 of these corners and the other 2. The difference is that from here, I can see into that corner at the back, and and from here I can see into the other corner at the back without ever having to cross the threshold. We call those corners easy corners because they're easily cleared. You can clear them from outside. By comparison, the corner there, I can't see all the way into it until I've physically entered the room. This room's kind of narrow, so you can see most of it, but in a wider room, there would be a significant amount of space that you can't see into, dead space there. So we have easy corners, hard corners. We can use this to basically classify two different types of like entries into a room. So this is what we call a center-fed room. Again, it's a little bit too narrow, but imagine it were a little bit wider. This is a center-fed room because it has two easy corners at the back there and two hard corners here. There's space on either side here, basically, for a person to stand. Is an example of a corner-fed room because the door is in the corner of the room. The practical upshot of a corner-fed room is that it only has one hard corner. This corner here, there isn't really enough space for somebody to stand, again. Sort of is like almost a little bit, but not really. So this is, yeah, the feed, the entrance is in the corner, which means that's actually not a corner that you have to clear. So you only have to worry about this. When you're in that kind of situation with a corner-fed room, normally the first man wants to go in on that side because that's the most dangerous space, basically. That's the bit that you haven't cleared yet.